Hi, I'm Direhog, or just Dire for short, and this video is going to be something new, because whereas all my previous online content was streams or clips of me casually playing games and being silly, this video is about me and the game that I am making. Specifically, I am making a tabletop role-playing game, TTRPG or pen and paper as you may call it. But before I get into what that is about exactly, as well as why I'm making a video about it, I want to talk about why I wanted to make this game in the first place. Like many others, I was always entertained and inspired by games, so much so that I wanted to give back and make games myself. Which is why I went on to study game design. It's not just a phase, mom. I've also had a fair share of experiences with TTRPGs, including Dungeons & Dragons, Lancer, GURPS, but also silly ones like Everyone is John and Honey Heist, all of which offer great fun and mechanics that are just neat. The big ones though, the ones that you have months or years long epic campaigns in, I've also always had little gripes with here and there. A mechanic that didn't sit right with me or something that felt confusing and convoluted. The people I played with or talked to about these scribes sometimes agreed and sometimes didn't. All of this isn't to say that I'm a connoisseur of pen and papers or that I know better than anyone else, but to set up my main point. Everyone has different preferences and every system has its strengths and weaknesses for certain kinds of gameplay, which there's nothing wrong with. That said, I wanted to make a game that suits the general preferences of myself, the friends I play with, and maybe you. Our very own penultimate TTRPG. Roll credits. Now, as for the game itself, when I originally started ideation, I set myself 3 core values. I wanted it to be classless, I wanted it to be flexible, and I wanted it to be simple. I want to address these in reverse order because the last one actually changed. When I set the value of simplicity, I was thinking of avoiding rules bloat, overly crunchy and confusing mechanics. However, I also experienced firsthand what happens when rules are too vague or not fleshed out enough. Which is that the players, or more often than not, the GM, has to come up with rulings on the spot. This may go well, but the GM usually has enough to do and it can be a problem, especially if the impromptu solution isn't satisfactory. What I realized then is that it's not simplicity that I want, but intuitiveness. Because if a game mechanic is sufficiently intuitive, it doesn't feel confusing even if it is complex. Flexibility is fairly straightforward. I want the players as well as the GM to feel like they have real freedom, the game system providing the guidance they need to not be overwhelmed. The last core value to address, being the first one I started out with, is that the system is classless, meaning that the player progression doesn't work by choosing the typical fighter or wizard class, which in turn dictates the stats and abilities you have. Instead, you advance the parts of your character that make sense to you. Enough about ideals though, and on to actual game mechanics as they exist now, starting with the dice checks. Many systems use one general type of die for their dice checks. D&D, for example, has characters roll a d20 for almost everything their characters want to do, with other dice being used for damage, specific magical effects, etc. But I like to roll my dice. All of them. So for Penultimate, the working title of the game, if that wasn't made apparent earlier, your character rolls different dice depending on how good they are at the given thing they're trying to do. Let's break it down by also sharing a bit about the character sheet. Any player character has 4 core stats, the names pending: agility, fortitude, mind, and presence. Each of these are represented not by a value, but a single die, ranging from d4s to d12s. On top of that, there are skills, which are represented by 2 dice. For any given action, this creates a dice pool of 3. The type of dice you roll for any given skill or core stat upgrade with every improvement. As an example, say your player character wants to ride a unicycle. you're actually pretty agile. So for this example, your agility core die is a D8. However, since you've never ridden a unicycle before, you are not good at it and only roll 2d4 dice for unicycling, which isn't a skill that you just have on your character sheet by standard, but you could fill it as a custom skill. More on that another time. Anyway, your total dice roll for this attempt at riding a unicycle is 1d8 and 2d4. The average result would be about 9. And the highest number you could possibly roll for this attempt is 16. Compare that to someone who has been riding unicycles for years. Let's be fair and give them the same core agility, being a D8, but they are very skilled at riding unicycle and have that skill at 2d10. The dice pool would be 1d8 plus 2d10. They could roll up to a 28, and their average is what your character would need incredible luck for. Shout out to AnyDice.com. The website is great for getting info on dice odds, etc. Naturally, if you are used to systems with a static die and changing bonuses depending on what you want to do, this could take some getting used to. Though I did playtest this already with a group of friends and it worked nicely. As it is now, your core stats affect a number of skills each, and improving them gives you broad benefit to your character. Improving a specific skill, however, makes much more drastic of an impact on doing that particular thing. I could go on and on about the system, but let me now get into why I'm sharing this here on YouTube with you. Firstly, I was inspired by various individuals in their projects that they too decided to share. And if one such individual watches this, apologies in advance if I mislabel you or your project. There's Monstergarden's Rust and Trenches world-building project, Subjectively's Apocryphal, and Jimmmm with his kaiju card game, to name a few. Links to their channels are in the description. I suggest you check them out. They do very cool stuff. But beyond just being inspired by others though, I enjoy collaboration. Be it the collaborative storytelling that is done by a group of friends playing a TTRPG, or more serious professional ideation among colleagues working on a game. See where this is going? That's right, my friends are all sick of me rambling to them, so I'm making it everyone else's problem now. But no, being serious, I want to welcome others to join me for the process of creating this game going forward. And depending on where everyone's interests lie, if there's any interest to begin with, this collaboration could come through comments on my videos or chatting during live streams. But because making videos and or building up the courage to stream live takes time, the number one spot for this project will probably be my Discord server. Again, a link for it in the description. There I can talk to you or share resources and polls about the game. There's probably more and other fun ways to collaborate. Feel free to let me know of any you can think of. So yeah, that's everything for this video though. The plan for now is to make another video about some aspects of the game and see where it goes. Thank you for watching this, whether or not you're joining me for this journey. Have a good one, and maybe I'll talk to you again soon.